Industries that are hot, sectors set to outperform the market. That's what's here in Zacks Industry Rank Analysis. Charles Rotblatt, our senior market analyst at Zacks.com, takes another crack this week at his industry rank analysis, looking at a profitable sector and industry for you. This week on the Rotblatt radar, it's drugs. Now, you can go ahead and qualify that.
Well, we're not talking about the illegal drugs, and no discussions about crack or marijuana. We're talking about legitimate over-the-counter and pharmaceutical drugs used for their prescribed purposes.
Medicinal purposes.
Medicinal purposes. I want to be on the record here is that we're not advocating anything illegal.
All right. But what you're doing is you're calling out to the forefront here a sector that has less market volatility to it, is less economically sensitive given the current economic times. However, I will propose that that sector is not without its issues. There have been some companies in this sector that have announced job cuts, and some have had some earnings ups and downs recently.
Well, it's certainly a sector where people need to really be specific about what stocks they invest in and really actively manage their numbers. As we talked today, Wednesday, October 22nd, Merck came out, some earnings that were okay, net income declined a little bit, announced some big job cuts. But if we look elsewhere in the sector, we're actually seeing a lot of good earnings. We have 7 Zacks number 1 ranked stocks and 27 Zacks number 2 ranked stocks. So there are definite opportunities in the pharmaceutical sector. With all these companies, however, they're all subject to the FDA rulings, to potential issues that might come out with a drug after it's been put out on the market, generic competition, and obviously new innovations by their competitors. So it's definitely a sector where you have to actively manage. However, there's a lot of companies here with positive earnings estimates, a lot of favorable valuations, a lot of companies that pay dividends, and again, they're less economically sensitive. So for investors looking for something that might be beaten down by the market and really unfairly beaten down, this is one sector where they can definitely find some opportunities to rebuild or perhaps even salvage the portfolio.
You know, this morning I heard news about a national survey that shows that in these economic times, consumers now are beginning to rethink where they're spending their money, and there's no surprise there. But the surprise came in even people with insurance, the survey shows, foregoing doctor's appointments and just postponing medical treatment or visits that they feel can be postponed. So that being said, how long do you think that might spill over into consumers, not buying prescribed medications in favor of gasoline or food, and is that going to put a drag on this sector?
Well, I think certainly at the margins there's going to be some people struggling. That's always been the case. We have about 47 million people who are uninsured. Even some people who are insured, they may not be able to afford their co-pays or deductibles, so there's always an issue anytime the economy slows down. However, when we look at the earnings, we're not seeing that have any impact yet. We're not seeing analysts factor it into earnings for next year. They might be factoring it in, and maybe the upside revisions are not as big as they might have been. But I think overall, when you look at the economy, there's a lot of fear. People are talking about possibility of things getting a lot worse. And I'm not saying it's not within the realm of possibility, but if we take the unemployment rate, for instance, we're at 6.1% approximately unemployment. Typical recession is 9 to 12%. So overall, the economy actually is in pretty good ground relative to other periods of economic recessions. Now, could it get worse? Yes. But I think we have a long way to go before it really becomes a major problem in terms of the economy, in terms of having really massive unemployment. And I think also for the drug makers, really to a point where it really impacts earnings. There are going to be more people struggling to make their medication, to get their medications to see doctors. But on the flip side, we look at a company, Pets. I believe the company is a ticker. I believe the company's name is PetsMed. Everyone sees those commercials, 1-800, whatever it is, to get medicine for your pets. Right. They recently came out with numbers, and they actually said they're continuing to see strong business, raise their guidance, and they're seeing people spend money on their dogs and their cats. And certainly if people are really struggling, they're going to put a greater emphasis on getting medication for themselves than for maybe Fido or Fluffy, their cat. Not that pets aren't important, but I think when times get crunched, people are going, that's the first place people would cut back.
It's a different priority.
And we're not seeing that happen.
You, though, talk about an across-the-board fairly good scenario as far as pharmaceuticals are concerned, both in large cap and in small cap.
We're seeing a lot of companies come out with some really good earnings. I'll talk about one right here, Abbott Labs. They had 17% revenue growth this quarter for the third quarter, raised their guidance, strong earnings, very large company, for a company that size to grow earnings 17% is pretty significant. Seeing growth across the board. I also talked about Cubis Pharmaceuticals, a small cap company, really have one main drug right now, have another drug they just started selling for, should impact fourth quarter earnings. And again, they raised guidance, had some very good, analysts raised their estimates going forward. They had some very good numbers. So there's definitely opportunities both on the large cap side and on the small cap side in pharmaceutical companies. So I think for investors who want to look for something that might be a little less economically sensitive, this is one sector to look into. And again, I'll reiterate, medical drugs has 7 Zacks #1 ranked strong buy stocks and 27 Zacks #2 buy stocks on there. So there's definite opportunities in here, but investors need to look at each company individually, see exactly what their prospects are, what their pipeline looks like, what their current drugs are. If they have upward momentum, it could give investors a way to actually help rebuild or perhaps even salvage their portfolio going forward.
All right. Do you or does anyone in your household own any of those stocks that you opined about?
No, I do not.
The text version of Charles' entire industry rank commentary and analysis may be viewed online. It's easy to get to. You just go to Zacks.com, you scroll down the homepage until you find the headline, and then you click on that link. With Charles Rotblatt and the industry rank analysis, I'm Terry Ruffalo.